Wow, it's good to be here. I'm so happy. Are there some kids here in the audience? I can see some. I love working with kids. I love working with kids, especially when I see them in the audience. It gives me the courage to talk even more. I grew up in a very rural village in my country, Rwanda. And growing up, it was really fun to walk around like just in the nature. And something I've soon come to realize is that most of the kids, they have superheroes. And I've seen like just, they have Captain America, Batman, Spider-Man, Wonder Woman. But personally, growing up as a young boy, I never knew about those superheroes. My family didn't have a television. But growing up in a village, my friends and I always ran in the nature and enjoyed the nature. And one spectacular sighting that we would always see, especially collecting water for families, was gray crowned cranes. The giant and beautiful, colorful birds with a majestic crown. When we saw them flying, we all wish we could fly like them. We would run around with our arms. Don't ask me how many times I hurt myself trying to fly. They were our superheroes. Pardon me. 25 years ago, my country, Rwanda, was suffering from the dark genocide. There was no hope of life for many people and for wildlife. I was 9 years old during that time. It was a bad experience. Growing up post-genocide, I really wanted to contribute to rebuild my country, and conservation is how I chose to contribute. I went to vet school. As he said, I'm a doctor of veterinary medicine, and my very first job was to be a gorilla doctor. And one of the best jobs in conservation. And I said, wow, my dream is coming true. And guess what? I used to tell my friends, can you imagine you go out there, you work with those species that you love, and you get paid? So I was very happy. But as I was just getting deep into conservation, I realized many species were on the brink of extinction. And I started like looking back and thinking of my childhood superhero, the gray crowned cranes. I was reading, and what I found was not really promising. We've lost about 80% of the whole population globally in the last 5 decades. In my country, Rwanda, the population was estimated in thousands in the 80s, but now we have less than 500. So this really like made me shake. I went back to my home village to see if those cranes I used to see as a young boy, they were still there. I couldn't find them. I asked people, where can I see cranes? This is what they told me to see. I really made me cry. Like, just this is someone's house, it has 6 cranes. They are not happy. So what's happening in my country, Rwanda, local communities who live next to marshlands, they are preferred habitat of cranes. They are hunting these cranes and selling them to those people who want to have them as pets in their gardens. And most of the time, these people, they are the rich people who have hotels or big gardens. Most of the time, politicians, big people in the army, police, and this is hard. And the most discouraging thing is that most of the time you would think they would know how even to care for them. But when they get into captivity, sometimes they are given the wrong conditions. They are given the wrong food. They are kept in confined areas. They are stressed, and they can't even breed. They don't make proper pets. They really don't get habituated. All the time I've seen only one crane that was habituated. So people, to stop them from flying, they cut feathers so that they don't fly. So this is really causing a huge decline of cranes in my country. The other big threat is the loss of habitat. My country, Rwanda, is one of the highly populated countries in Africa. The densities go over 500 people per square kilometers. And this is not easy when you want to satisfy the food security. So wetlands, that's where everyone is going. So many wetlands are transformed into agricultural farms. So cranes are losing their suitable habitat for breeding and for food. So when I became aware of these threats, I told myself, someone has got to do something. But I'm happy with the gorilla doctors. Like, I don't want to step away. Like, really. So I started looking and who's doing something, and there were some efforts like ready, but like really the scale of illegal trade, no one was doing anything about it. So I convinced myself I've got to start something to save my childhood hero. And that's when I founded the Rwanda Wildlife Conservation Association. Starting something new, it's not easy, especially in conservation. But with passion, commitment, and all of you, it's possible. It took me some time to sit down and analyze all the threats that cranes were facing. And I quickly realized that there are so many factors behind the threats. People who are poaching or hunting, one, they are poor. They want to provide for their kids. Sometimes they will do it to earn as little as $5 just to buy food for one night or school notebooks for their kids. Second, they are not aware of the threats it's causing to the cranes. They say, oh, it's just one crane. Yeah. And there is lack of law enforcement. So all of those threats, like if you've got to really save the cranes, you've got to think how can we really come up with strategies that can be successful. So my organization, we took a holistic approach with like a multidisciplinary approach, and we designed so many interventions targeting all the aspects of the problem. And the first intervention that we came up with was to launch the media campaign. And here we wanted just to tell people, many people did not even know that they are disappearing. So we went on radios, like all the radios in the country, television, and we had advert passing morning, midday, and evening. And we said, did you know that cranes are endangered and we could lose them in next year, there will be no cranes in Rwanda? Did you know that it's illegal to keep cranes in your garden because it's illegal? And did you know that what you are doing, it's what is endangering them? Because when you think communities who are poaching, they don't know how to catch them. They will use snares, sometimes that we catch them by the neck, fishing nets, and then the transport from the wetland to the town where they're selling, they bring them in sacks, and so many cranes die during that whole process. And with a few number remaining, if we continue that practice, all the cranes are going to disappear. So we even went on radios live. You can see my photo there. We would go and people would call, ask questions, and say, oh, some people felt bad. They say, we didn't know that it's really bad. But we love them. We love to have them here. And we said, would you like your grandkids to see them? They said, yes. But unfortunately, like, they might not be able, because it will take only a couple of years just to finish all the cranes that are remaining in captivity in the wild. And people say, oh, really? And we said, like, most of you who have cranes, actually you are able to go to the national parks and you'll be able to see wildlife and connect with them. And that's a nice like practice to teach your kids so that it can be sustainable for a long time. And people understood us. So when we were there, we also told the people, if you have cranes and you want really to give them a second chance to live again, to go back to the wild, call us. So we worked with the government, we opened an amnesty. And this is a period of time where we say it's illegal, but the government is not going to come and prosecute you. We want you to come ahead and tell us that you have cranes. So people loved this one. And let me tell you, when we started this project, the big threat was many people, like, I was thinking, how am I going to approach a general who has cranes? How am I going to approach a minister? And then we said, like, we've got to go easy, like the easy way. So we turned this threat, this kind of weakness into an opportunity. So we went to them and said, like, did you know that, yeah, you're a minister, but you are like, you are the image. And did you know that this is illegal, this is not good? Like, and these people, they said, wow, we didn't know, really, like, just take them. And, and it worked. And all the other remaining people in the middle, they didn't have any reason. They saw good example, the willing of, like, people up high coming and like supporting our program. So people called us, and when you go to their home, we put a leg band. Sorry, slide. We put a leg band with unique number on every crane in captivity. So we're building the database for all cranes in captivity. And what we were doing, we're also trying to look at physically which cranes can be able to go back to the wild and which cranes will never be able to go back to the wild because they are cranes that are damaged. So we've been registering these cranes, and we have registered voluntarily 278 cranes in captivity. And the other thing, we're asking more information. How much did you buy them? Who supplied you? And how long did you have this cranes? So that we understand how long the trade has been going on and how much money is involved, who's supplying, where they're coming from, so that we can even design more strategies to go like to those areas. So I will give you one example. We ask people, why do you even want to have cranes in your garden? And many people, they said, they are beautiful. They are beautiful, we want to have them. And in my country, a crane is the symbol of wealth and longevity. But it's ironic, it's usually like wealthy ecosystem. Like when you see cranes like flying all around, that means our ecosystems are functioning because they are at the top of the ecosystem, like wetlands. If wetlands are all right, they are all right. So you will see it through cranes. So it's an indicator of a healthy ecosystem. But people want to show it in their house. So, and many other people, they said, this crane, it's a totem for some of the families. And they said, like, we want to have close to us because they are our characteristic, they are our birds. But we said that it's endangering them, it's too much love. It would be good, like, to keep them in the wild. So every time we went to those homes, we took an opportunity to educate people. But surprisingly, there are people who said they help them, security. Say, what? Security? Why won't you hire some company to help you? And we asked, tell us more about this security thing. And I said, like, if someone jumps in your garden, these cranes, they will make noise before they break into your house. So they will alert you. So that was one reason. And then they said, some of them, they said, we used to have snakes in our gardens, and we decided to bring cranes because cranes eat snakes and amphibians and all of those reptiles. So it's a good reason, but it's not a good reason really, like, to finish a population of cranes for that function. So yeah, we were trying to understand, and all of this kind of information helped us really to design some more educational program. So our third intervention, after knowing all the cranes in captivity, we planned the staged reintroduction process. And this is when everyone who has actually called us, they accept that we can take their cranes. So we call people and say, like, in 1 month, we are going to come to your house and we are going to take those cranes. And we take them in groups of 40. We have a quarantine facility, and the capacity is a maximum 40 cranes. So we go to these houses, we bring them into those crates, and we put them under quarantine. So we examine them, and we want to make sure that before we return them back to the wild, they are healthy. But we also want to avoid any risk of bringing a new disease to the wild, because they might have acquired a disease while they're in captivity that can come and kill other birds or other animals. So we make sure really, like, this is done professionally, and we take a healthy population. When the quarantine is finished, we take them back to the park. And this is how we transport them and we release them. You know, in the beginning, I told you that I always wanted to fly like cranes. And just when I was young, when I kept falling, trying to fly, I thought I would never be able to fly. But these days, like, I've just come to realize that actually I can fly. I can fly. Every time I release a crane out there, I close my eyes and I see them flying. Just I fly with them. I can fly. So we have so far released about 153 cranes into back to the wild. And the way we do this, we have fenced an area in a national park nearby the lake. And this place, it has an electric fence, but it doesn't have a roof. So these cranes, they have feathers that are cut, and those feathers take time to grow. So we supplement them with food and we care for them, and they relearn their behavior, they learn how to fly, and whenever they're ready, they fly out and they release themselves. It's a soft release. And when they are gone, we follow up with post-release monitoring. We want to know the rate of survival. We want to know like how many have left our facility and gone out in a park. And we want to know if they are reproducing. So we've been doing this like driving into the park. We have a challenge of not having enough funds to introduce the technology like GPS tags so that we can really be monitoring every crane where they are going. But we are soon getting there. We have got a small grant to start this kind of program. And we want to scale it up so that we can really collect enough data to know how they are doing. So I told you, like, communities, they're the ones who are driving these threats to the cranes. If community didn't poach, they would not end in a captivity. So our fourth intervention is working with communities. And this is where we put our most energy. Because, you know, if we don't work with the communities, like, these cranes, they're going to find us in the town when they come back. So let me tell you a story. 3 years ago when I was beginning this project, there is a tea company that came to us and said, like, we have a pair of cranes here, and they are not breeding. And we went there and say, like, oh, you have used all the wetland. You are growing tea. And the other part was taken by local communities. And they said, what can we do? So we quickly discussed communities, local leaders, and the tea company. We came to a decision of, like, securing an area that we are going to restore and fence it so that we see if those cranes can breed. Immediately, it's like they were listening. They started nesting in that area. We fenced it, and then the tea company, they said, let's hire someone. Let's not take it for granted. Someone might steal those eggs, but let's just hire someone to look after this area. So we hired someone. Someone was really like spending day. The eggs were there, and it took, like, cranes usually, they will hatch their eggs in 1 month. And 2 months passed, and they said, what's happening? They are not hatching their eggs. And then we went to ask the guy. And you know what he told us? He said, every day, every evening when I go home, I take the eggs with me. I don't want people to see them when I'm not here. So this guy was doing things out of good intention, but he doesn't realize, like, cranes need to sit on their eggs in the night as well. So I really want to show you how, like, even the little piece of, like, something small can mess up your results that you were expecting. Like, really. So we try to go to communities to tell them everything we know, like we want them to know. So we've taken this approach. We go to the communities with, like popular, like, guys, like, we have entertainment and we attract people and they come. People love it when, especially, it's a market day. And so when they come, we put in our message, and we say there are going to be questions and answers, and there are prizes. And we bring things that they need, like a basket, we need umbrellas, cooking pots, all of those, like those things that the people really need. And people love it. They hang around, we have questions and answers, and they win prizes, small phones, and they love it. It's a good way to give them the message. The other thing we do, we work with local leaders. These are representing the government there, and we want them to stand in the right place, to know. And we've been working with them, and since we have seen really a collaboration coming up, and all the time that there is someone in the community who's poaching, they will call us and say there is a crane here. So we've been able to really get even those cranes before they end to the end buyer. We work with local communities. These are some Marsh Rangers, and we are bringing the concept of conservation. We want them to really practice, to do it themselves. And these, we help them technically, but we let them plan things themselves. They plan their patrols. They monitor cranes by any illegal activities that they see. They also report it to the local leaders so that these local leaders can help them with prosecuting people who are committing those. We have soon started and recently started another initiative, the Crane Conservation Champions, and they are recruited throughout the country. We want them to be our ambassadors in the communities. So they are going to be teaching the communities, but also monitoring cranes. We gave them smartphones with this database, with this app, so that they can record sightings everywhere in the country. And they will be also educating communities and looking out for any illegal activities. And the future belongs to young ones. We really invest a lot in the kids. We use this comic book. Actually, we have it on our table, if you are interested to have a copy. And we want to inspire kids and really tell them what to do, what not to do, what is good for wildlife. We want a generation of future conservationists. We want people in the future not to be doing a practice that can endanger our wildlife. We also connect them to, we have started this new program. We have clubs in the villages, and we are planting trees, indigenous trees that can serve as roost for cranes. And we give every kid free trees, different, with English name, scientific name, and local name. And they are always interacting. What's the name of your tree? What's the name of your tree? And we are bringing the pride, ownership. Say these are your trees. Imagine what it will look like in 5 years, in 10 years when cranes are roosting there. So kids love it, and we made it competitive. And we say, if you really manage to grow your trees, we are going to have a prize. So they are loving it. We are working with the government at a high level because there is also a demand, an international demand for pet trade. Some of the cranes, they go out of the country, out of the region, from East Africa to Middle East for pet trade. So we are trying to work really to secure the population of cranes, using different institutions like police, customs, all of them. So as I told you, we have registered about 278. 203 have been confiscated, and 153 has been returned back to the wild. Many cranes are growing their feathers. They are flying in and out of the facility, and they are breeding. We've had some recordings of cranes really having chicks, those we introduced cranes. But I really want to tell you here, I'm finishing here. Unfortunately, through our program, we came across a number of cranes that are disabled, permanently disabled. These cranes will never be able to fly. And some of the cranes are disabled through accidentally, people cutting feathers, and they end up breaking their wings. And some people, they do it intentionally, trying to stop them from flying completely. We have about 50 of these cranes. And they are still out there in people's garden, in hotels. And recently the government gave us 40 acres of land to fence it, to make it a beautiful, nice place within the capital city. And we are going to call it Umusambi Village. Umusambi is the local name of crane, great crown crane. And it has many other species of birds and amphibians and reptiles. And we are going to make it a natural place. We want to build an environmental educational facility around so that people can come and connect with wildlife and learn how we can save wildlife. So this is really a huge project ahead of us. I invite all of you really to come to join us and give us a chance, or help us to give a chance to those cranes to fly again or to have a happy ending. Please join us. So thank you to WCN for getting me here. Thank you to all of you, all of our supporters.